It's spooky season, Halloween's only a few days away, so what better time than to check out some Five Nights at Freddy's lore videos. We're watching the ultimate timeline from the game theorists, and when it comes to Five Nights at Freddy's, I'm pretty much going into this unaware of anything, besides the fact that the animatronics come alive. And honestly, that's terrifying in and of itself. Imagine being stuck in a Chuck E. Cheese, and the mouse ends up coming alive and attacking you. It's kind of scary, man. So with that said, if you enjoyed this video, do me a favor and smash that like button, and if you're new here and you haven't done so yet, maybe consider subscribing. Let's go.
Today we end the torment. 19 books, 11 games, 8 whole years, all leading to this moment.
It has that much lore? What the heck? 19 books? How many games? Over 8 years, and now we have a movie too, right?
Ultimate FNAF timeline is finally complete. The pieces are in place for us. Now all we have to do is put this story of tragedy, jealousy, and
that one right there in that puzzle piece is in with the glowing eyes. That thing's kind of scary, man. What is that?
loss back together.
Tragedy, jealousy, and loss.
Hello, Internet.
What's up?
Welcome to Game Theory, the show that feels like a kid revealing the class project that he's been working on all year. Except here, it's the class project that I've been working on for the past decade of my life. This one is big, my friends, and I gotta admit, kind of nervous.
Yo, that's dedication, man. That takes a lot of time. So I guess it's good that I'm checking out his video because he knows what he's talking about.
Attempted a timeline video on this franchise since 2018.
6
back in the
years.
days when Mike was the crying child.
I don't know who
Afton
Mike
coming
is.
Back was actually a surprise.
I don't know who
and
Afton is.
Fazgoo wasn't a phrase I ever
Fazgoo?
thought I'd have to utter. But since
That sounds kind of disgusting, bro.
the last time I did something like this, we've had 3 more massive games, the death and revival of the FNAF movie, and more robot kids than you can shake a staff by.
Robot kids?
It's exhausting trying to keep track of this whole franchise, which
Bro, look at these things, man. I mean, Afton, that's the thing's name, right? That thing's creepy looking. I don't know what the deal with that is, but then look at the animatronic monsters, bro. That thing looks like it's decaying, I guess because it's old. And that's the rabbit that had the glowing eyes in that little puzzle piece. Dude, can't wait to find out about that rabbit. It looks so scary, dude.
honestly is why I'm here today. The lore at this point is
Oh,
complicated.
well,
It is
that's
full
why
of
I'm here, bro.
speculation and theory. So to hopefully make it a little easier for everyone and to give us all a baseline to talk about this franchise moving forward into the future, it's time to reveal my current working FNAF timeline. But just before I do, I just want to explain a couple of things. First, this timeline is massive. Seriously, it is
I bet.
huge.
8
This
years,
thing
dude.
towers over any video project we have ever done on the channel. But
I wonder if I should check out any of their other video projects. They got some Pokemon stuff here.
when you look at the totality of this franchise, the story of FNAF really boils down to
Dude,
the story of
it's
one man,
crazy
William
looking.
Afton. His successes, his failures, his rise to becoming co-owner of one of the most successful restaurant franchises in the world.
William Afton? So he's the creator of, I guess, Fazbear? Is that what that thing is? Fazgoo? And he's the creator of, like, the Chuck E. Cheese place?
And his eventual fall to the monsters he helped to create, only to then be reborn in a new digital form later. That's why
Oh, he's the rabbit? This man gets sucked into the digital world, basically? He becomes binary? Ones and O's?
I've decided to split this timeline into 3 main chunks. The foundation of Freddy's, how the business started and how it came into being, the Afton era, William's decades-long murder spree, and post-Purple Guy. Basically modern FNAF. Everything that
Oh, what the heck? So there's some crazy stuff that went down before modern FNAF? It led to, like, what we have in FNAF? So this dude Afton was murdering people?
happens after
Before-
the pizzeria simulator fire. And because there are lots of new big revelations in this thing that seemingly come out of nowhere, as well as just points I want to talk about further, I decided to dedicate 1 episode to each chunk. I originally wanted it to be one seamless, continuous video, but it just felt incomplete without some sort of explanation at the end of each one. Once this whole thing's
hour
done, I
of
promise I'm gonna
animation.
merge all the narrative bits into one massive video so you can just skip my explanations. But for now, this just felt like the best, most satisfying, most complete way to do this.
Hey, man, I'm on board.
This is still about the story, the broad strokes of the franchise.
That's what I wanna
in
know.
order to make sure that you guys know that I'm not just pulling answers out of thin air, not only am I discussing some of the more controversial bits at the end of each chunk, we're also putting in a handy little graphic in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, which will show thumbnails, video titles, books, and any other citations that we need throughout the video.
That's
so
cool.
if you wish to understand that specific statement in more detail, you know exactly
Matt gave birth to Springtrap? What's that, bro?
where we've taken it from. That way you can look into
What?
those details for yourself. So sit back, grab some popcorn.
Hey, I'm
roll
here,
your
man.
Pitchforks if you're the type to get upset when I say something controversial, and
I-
make sure that
oh,
you subscribe,
well.
since this is going to be a video that you're going to want to come back to a few times in order to fully dissect. Without
Not for nothing, bro. I don't know anything about it, so I can't get mad at you if you are wrong.
Any more waiting, I present to you the story of a loving, obsessive father who slowly descended into madness. And along the way, discovered the secret to eternal life.
So that must be Afton, huh? So he had 2 children and he loved them dearly, and then eventually led to his downfall. I guess he created Five Nights at Freddy's for his kids. Eternal life, foundations of Freddy.
Our story begins not in the 1980s, or even in the 1970s, but all the way back in the 1930s. It was the throes of the Great Depression, and people were in desperate need of cheap entertainment, especially in Utah, one of the states hit hardest, 4th highest unemployment in the nation, and full of transients. People looking for work in Salt Lake, finding none, and ultimately moving on to find their fortunes out in California.
Is that legit? Like, was that the 4th nation with that? Like, is that true about Utah? Is that info correct? And they put that into the game? They actually drew upon legit information from the Great Depression for the game?
People were tired and they were hungry, but as they traveled, there was one thing that could lift their spirits. A simple roadside attraction called Fredbear's Singin' Show.
Oh, okay. So this is literally the humble beginnings of, I guess, Freddy Fazbear. Is that the thing's name?
Were plastered all over town, featuring an animated bear drawn in the popular pie-eyed cartoon style for characters at the time. He resembled cartoons like Mickey Mouse, Felix the Cat, Betty Boop. It immediately said that this, Fredbear's, was a place where you could bring the family. And the price, honestly, couldn't be beat. For 50 cents, you could get food and entertainment as you watched the local trained real-life dancing bear perform on stage. Normally...
Oh, damn, they had a real bear, dude? Does this thing go rampant at some point?
You only got to see dancing bears at large traveling circuses.
Barnum Circus,
like Bailey, where the tickets would go for about $1. That's $1 without food. But this was a smaller show.
This is half the price.
The Vaughn brothers or the Robbins brothers, where tickets would sell for just a mere 50 cents. Watching that bear do tricks on stage brought a glimmer of joy at a time when so much
it was dark times, man.
The simple show would go on for years.
I wasn't around,
to hundreds
obviously.
Of travelers passing
Maybe I was
for a quick meal, but it left a permanent impression on one little boy, capturing his imagination.
This Afton person.
One little boy named Billy.
William Afton.
His parents like to call him William.
Okay. So this is where it all begins.
Could sing. For decades, William dreamed of recreating that moment of bringing a musical bear to life, but how? William was smart, without a doubt, and he had a keen mind for business, but he wasn't the most creative. How do you make a singing, dancing bear come to life? The best he could do was using rudimentary costumes. William was inspired by the work of Walt Disney, who throughout the 50s and 60s was pioneering the use of mascot suits throughout his theme park. The big innovation? Suits with 5 fingers. This allowed the performers wearing the suits to use their natural arms and hands to interact with the guests, as opposed to the older models where the arms would just hang limply by their sides.
So do they get people and put them inside like the Fazbear suits and stuff? I thought they were animatronics. Maybe that's the beginning. Maybe they had actual people inside the suits.
Finally, with a simple mascot suit, he would be able to realize his childhood dream. He would be able to bring Fredbear to life. To appeal to the kids, and for copyright reasons,
Yo, that bear is looking awfully weird, bro. Bear looks like he smoked a doobie or something, bro. That's why he's eating that pizza.
Changed Fredbear from a realistic brown animal to a cartoonish yellow bear with a purple hat and bow tie. But feeling like one character wasn't enough, he added another friend, a yellow rabbit with a purple vest and matching tie named Bonnie the Bunny.
Okay, so we have Bonnie and Freddy.
His first love. Bonnie was extra special because that was his. It was an original character that he had created from scratch.
And he's gonna become it.
Scratch. William's hand-sewn costumes were rough with seams and stitches visibly showing, but it was the best that he could do. And you know what? It was just enough. Bonnie and Fredbear would perform on...
Not for nothing, that makes it creepier.
Stage to small but enthusiastic crowds. Finally, he was able to deliver fantasy and fun to all the kids, delighting and inspiring them in the exact way that he had been delighted and inspired so many years ago. And things could have ended there. That could have been the end to his story. It could have been perfect had it not been for one thing. Other people saw the success of his idea and they wanted in.
There it is, dude.
Party World, a rival restaurant starring performing animal characters. His idea, except they did it better. William may have been the first, but obviously he wasn't the best. It
doesn't look like he likes that too much, bro.
Hurt the prideful William Afton to admit it, but this restaurant was able to do the thing that he always wanted to do, make the animals actually come to life. All of the performers in this restaurant were robots.
This is jealousy.
Skeletons that were powered by battery packs, but all of them able to freely turn and talk and
so they're animatronic. Okay, so this is where the animatronics come in. Okay.
Magic that came from the mind of a brilliant creator named Henry Emily.
Henry Emily.
In some small way, had been able to harness the power of light life itself.
They're gonna team up.
Admired him. He was jealous, to be sure, but he also looked upon this man with awe. Off to one side of Chica's party world was a small cabaret stage featuring an elephant magician. On the other, a hippo known to ramble on and on. That one
You'll not for nothing. An elephant magician? What's he gonna summon some peanuts for himself?
Was more of a joke for the parents, but it was the main stage that was for the kids. A rocking band of characters featuring a yellow chicken thing with a southern
That thing looks creepy as hell, bro. I ain't taking my kids to this place.
drawl named Chica, backed by a band of other country-themed characters, including a pig with a banjo, an upbeat frog from the local swimming hole, and
a frog looking like an alligator or crocodile.
Brown bear with a heavy southern accent. Wait, a bear? But bears were his animals. Why not a cow or a horse?
Oh, he's pissed.
The country theme a bit better. Why'd it have to be a bear? And adding insult to injury, they had the nerve to call this thing Ned Bear, a direct copy of his own
he's
Fred
pissed,
Bear.
bro.
Whoops, that's gonna leave a mark.
Yeah,
No,
we
that
can't
was
have
not
that,
okay.
bro.
Afton's jealous
Emotional
admiration
damage.
turned to hardened bitterness. A bitterness that would only grow over the next couple of years as families continued to choose Chica's party
Over
world
him.
over Fred Bear's.
Yep.
William just couldn't compete with the appeal of the robots.
There's a
Eventually,
jealousy.
His restaurant would go bankrupt, only to get bailed out by, of course,
Chica.
Henry Emily.
Makes
Another
sense.
Insult. Another
Here we go.
humiliation that William wouldn't soon forget.
They can become partners?
1979. Despite being bitter, Afton couldn't deny that what came next was a period of massive success and expansion. With the two franchises now merged into
They
one,
are
it was the best of
merged.
both
Okay,
worlds.
Fredbear's
Afton's
Chica's
ideas with
Party
Henry's
World?
robotic expertise. The two men decided to launch under a new name, Fredbear's Family Diner, a pizza chain that would eventually come to feature a mix of humans in performing suits as well as on-stage animatronics. They decided to stick with Fredbear as the headliner, considering the yellow bear was easily identifiable as a brand and because he was the original performing animal mascot. Afton
Gotta keep the OG, bro. So they teamed up. He started to get all kinds of success, but he still is jealous of the guy, right? He still has his pride. So what's gonna happen between them?
appreciated that. This new restaurant would also see a mix of characters as the two franchises merged into one, with Pig Patch and Happy Frog performing right alongside
Patch
Fred
and
Bear
Happy
and Bonnie.
Frog,
And
okay.
as part of this one big
mixed
Fred
them all
Bear
together.
family, they even got themselves official merch that were released, ranging from masks to magnets.
Gotta make that money, dude.
Mr. Hippo fridge magnet?
Who's this
That
talking?
said, not all the characters were winners. The reception to some characters was just mediocre, so they faded away into the dumpster, storage units, and retro budget tech stores of lost nostalgia, waiting for their chance to step back into the limelight if and when a headliner went out of commission. Others,
Yo, not for nothing. Are those things gonna come to life?
though, would fare much better, like a new Pirate Fox, as well as a blue guitar-playing variant of the yellow Bonnie Bunny. Ultimately,
These things, they don't look like that, like when they were first created, right? Because they're creepy, bro. Who would take their kids to see these things?
the franchise would get so big, it would spawn its own cartoon show, Fredbear and Friends. Business was booming.
Yo, they're making
In
that
the end,
money,
Fredbear
man.
and Bonnie's popularity would be so strong that they would be able to support the Fredbear's Family Diner franchise all on their own, while also spinning off a new sister location dedicated to their friends. In 1983,
Okay, what's
Freddy
that?
Fazbear's Pizza launched,
Pizza,
giving a
okay.
dedicated home to all this new supporting cast of characters. Chica the Chicken, Bonnie the Blue Bunny, Foxy the Pirate, and of course the headliner, a brown Freddy
Bro,
Fazbear.
they all look so
Business
bad.
was
Yeah,
good, and
this
Afton
this
was
has to be
happy,
like over
mostly.
time.
It did bother him that the one original character that he created, the one that he himself played, Golden Bonnie, got passed over for inclusion in that cartoon show. The only character in
Dude's
the roster
pissed.
of regulars to get ignored for the show, but other than that, things
Right,
were going smoothly.
that was his
He had himself
creation.
a wife, 2 sons,
Oh,
a daughter. He had a
okay.
thriving business, and best of all, he was able to learn the craft of robotics from the man that he both loved and hated, Henry. Together,
Yeah, that's a crazy duality there, bro. Loved him and hate him. I mean, this dude Afton's gonna do something wrong, right? He's gonna like backstab this dude Henry, right?
they were constantly pushing the limits of what these characters could do. Because it was quick and easy, new characters introduced into the roster would be given a simple hand-sewn suit with 5 fingers that any performer could wear.
Okay, so
Eventually,
those weren't
Henry would design one of
animatronics.
his signature animatronics for that character, utilizing a divided mouth with either a hinged or sliding jaw design. This was the
Okay.
first generation of animatronics. But why
Okay.
stop there? Afton had big ideas. What if the animatronics weren't just locked to the stage, but could freely roam the restaurant and interact with the kids? What if his mascot suits could become animatronics? What if you could use more than just rigid metallic skeletons? Why not experiment with tubes
Like
and
what?
wires that would give the animatronics fluidity and flexibility while still providing structure? The
So you want to make androids, basically, bro? Like what?
Possibilities for this technology were endless. Afton fell in love with robotics. He had started with a dream of bringing one simple
And it
singing
turned
bear
to
to
that.
life, but with robots, he had stumbled across the tools that gave him the ability to control life itself. And thanks to Henry, he was practically speedrunning his way to an engineering degree. And while
It's not true life though.
William wouldn't admit it out loud, one other thing that kept pushing him forward was the desire to beat his former rival.
Yeah,
to
that
prove
rivalry,
himself
dude.
smarter and
Dumb
more
and
capable,
stupid.
to surpass the man who everyone else considered to be a visionary genius.
Right.
But pride cometh before the fall.
100%.
And tragedy was about to strike. Okay, so
Okay.
that brings us to the end of part 1 of the story. That said, at the end of each of these chunks, I want to break down some of the logical leaps that I made, since the more narrative format doesn't give me much of a chance to
Dude, they're
justify
so creepy
a lot
looking.
of the big decisions. And admittedly, there are some large leaps in here. Let's just start off with Fredbear's Singing Show, shall we? We know, based on the retro poster that was hidden in Security Breach, that at least at one point, Fredbear was an actual bear. And like I called out in that narrative segment, dancing bear shows were a real form of entertainment. The only problem is that, timing-wise, none of our main characters would be the people in charge of that business in the 30s and a series of pizza restaurants in the 80s without them just being extremely old. Best case scenario, if Afton's running the singing show when he's 18, that still puts him at nearly 70.
Right, so it
when
couldn't
the
have
first
been him, and it
pizzeria
couldn't have been
opens and
Henry.
his murder spree begins. That just doesn't make a lot of logical sense, because he doesn't become immortal until his first death in Springtrap. That's why I suspect that Fredbear's Singing Show was either a family business that Afton then carried on to a new generation, or something that he saw as a kid and just wanted to recreate when he grew up. The Fredbear
So-
Singing Show thing also starts laying the groundwork for some of the core elements of this story, that Freddy's was a place of fantasy and fun, and that Afton, despite eventually falling to become the heartless serial killer and mad scientist that we know him as,
Yeah,
began
looking
as
like
someone
Dr.
with
Wily.
good intentions and a love of entertaining kids. He
That's interesting. So some of this is just him piecing it together. It wasn't actually in the lore. He's just making an assumption that it could either be a family business or he just loved what he saw, right? Afton loved the dancing bear. So we're going with the fact that he loved the dancing bear, and that's what set him off on this journey.
wanted to bring things to life from the very beginning, a theme that recurs a lot for him throughout the rest of the franchise. Next up, let's talk about those mascot costumes. One thing that I keep going back to is the design of Glitch Trap.
That's Glitch
It's a
Trap?
handcrafted suit. You can see the seams.
Thought that
and
was Bonnie.
everything.
That
It
must
even
be a
has
different-
5 fingers
that's a
for the
different bunny
performer's
then.
hands. It is very much not a Springtrap suit. This is something much more rudimentary. It came at a time before animatronics were a part of the story. That's why I suspect that it was actually the first, predating literally everything. It's also a suit that is very personal to Afton. He put his digital consciousness in that form. It's his personal avatar.
What?
It's the way that he sees himself. There's also a whole separate discussion to be had here about the habits and rituals of serial killers. So the fact that
Yeah.
he's choosing to
Yeah.
lure kids and
Dude,
kill them
look how
in this
creepy that
particular
is!
suit actually says a lot about his emotional attachment to it. So while Fredbear seems to have started as someone else's creation, Golden Bonnie was uniquely Williams, giving him a personal
It is
connection.
Golden Bonnie,
That's
but
not
he
all.
becomes
In this whole
Glitch
franchise,
Trap?
only one set of characters have themselves 5 fingers, the Nightmares. Even Golden Freddy, Fredbear was a 5-fingered wearable suit at one point in the story, as we see in this shot from the graphic novel, before he, like everyone else, was turned into an animatronic. This seems to imply that all of the main characters had similar wearable mascot outfits at least at one point in time, and that
Okay.
whoever is having the FNAF 4 nightmares, if they even are nightmares, something that we'll touch on in part
Oh,
2,
so
saw
they're-
those mascot suits specifically.
So
Lastly,
they're
we have to talk
nightmares.
about the elephant in the room. The literal elephant, Orville Elephant, as well as the rest of the mediocre melodies. For a while now, I've suspected that the mediocre melodies played a much more important role in the story than just being a bunch more animatronics to fill out the roster. Especially Ned Bear, which is just so suspiciously close to Fredbear. And yet, there are 2 key details that we're gonna have to justify with any mediocre melodies mention. One, they're very rudimentary with external battery packs, implying that they come very early in the timeline. And 2, we know that at minimum, Mr. Hippo does eventually become an official member of the extended Freddyverse. But if
Was that a metal, like a hair metal band? Was that what that was supposed to be?
these things are supposed to be cheap, generic rip-offs, why would you be trying to rip off yourself? You wouldn't. You would be stealing someone else's ideas. So if Afton created Fredbear, there would have to be some rival franchise. The only other person who would likely be ripping
Henry.
off Henry. We've talked extensively about how the mediocre melodies are clearly Henry's design aesthetic, so it just has to be him. I don't think Henry's doing this maliciously. He doesn't strike me as the type. He was likely building the robots at the orders of someone else that was running a rival restaurant franchise. But that's enough motivation to start Afton down a path of jealous
Right.
rivalry,
Yeah.
but also begrudging admiration. As the Freddy Files Ultimate Edition says, it's important to revisit the beginning of Henry and William's relationship, so here you go. I think this is where it begins. Also, this is future Matt Pat here coming back to add this one in. Seems like the recently released character encyclopedia has backed up all of this speculation.
Damn, he
I've
was
had this
spot
timeline
on,
running for
huh?
about a month now, but I've also been holding off a bit to see what wrenches this character encyclopedia might throw into it. And on this particular point, I gotta say, it seems like we might actually have nailed it. They actively
dude.
call out the suspicious similarities to the main Fredbear crew. Quote from one of the pages: Ned Bear looks like an imitation, altered just enough to avoid copyright issues. I don't know about you, but that seems to imply that we were right on the money.
Yeah, that
Knowing
you were
all
ripped
of
off,
this,
yeah.
At one point, the franchises had to have merged. That's really the only way that you get Mr. Hippo from the rival franchise as part of the Fazbear crew. This also mirrors a lot of what happened in the real-life history of Chuck E. Cheese.
Oh,
with
yeah?
two rival restaurants.
I don't
each
know
with their
anything
own
about
casts and
that.
characters merging to become one unified brand.
Not for
Again,
nothing.
We've gone into
These things look creepy as hell too.
that in detail with other videos, just wanted to remind you all of that here. But why would I call out the rival restaurant as being named Chica's Party World? Few things actually. First, we know for a fact that a location named Chica's Party World exists. It is mentioned in the source code teasing sister location, so it is out there somewhere and doesn't fit cleanly anywhere. Second, in the story of the Puppet Carver, Chica is very explicitly looped in with the book versions of Pig Patch and Ned Bear, implying that she started as a mediocre melody. Thirdly, her design just fits better with a theme of down-home country animals with southern accents playing the banjo and eating with bibs. And with her being the headliner of the show with her name on the restaurant, it would make sense then that when the restaurants merged, she was the one that was added to the main cast of characters while all the other mediocres faded away. It's also when Freddy's closes after William's killing spree, she's the one to branch back off into her old franchise and is therefore missing in sister location, a detail that's bothered me for years at this point. It might also explain why William decided to stuff his first dead kid into Chica.
What?
That one was Henry's creation, not his.
Wait, what? He stuffed one of the kids into Henry's creation, like out of spite? So one of his victims he put in this suit?
All of this a big leap? Yeah. Is it connecting a lot of dots that are very spread out across the franchise that I've been holding on in the back of my mind for years? Absolutely. But I think it makes sense. It also serves as a clean answer to a lot of the random threads that Scott's been leaving dangling for years. So with all of that in mind, my friends, we can close the book on the foundation of Freddy's. And don't worry, next week I'll be back to give you arguably one of the most confusing parts of this entire timeline situation. Part 2, the Afton era. I promise, it will actually be next week this time.
It's the most confusing.
I am just as eager to get this one out the door as you are to watch it. I promise. You know what else I promise? I promise that we'll actually get to talking about the games. I would have liked to have talked about them in this episode, but there just isn't that much in the games that helps us depict anything pre-Family Diner. Although, let's be honest, this franchise has never been just about the games anyway.
There's
Even back in the
19
early days of
books.
FNAF, we were decoding images and source code that Scott fed us through the website. The modern day books and the clues that we get from those things, now they're just modern extensions of that. All of it is crucial to understanding this franchise and its lore. Unless, of course,
lore,
Steel Wool
man.
finally gets around to making that Fredbear's Family Diner game they want to make so badly.
I've always would love to do is get kind of back to. I have no clue if we'll ever be able to do this, but getting back to kind of like the origin of like Fazbear Entertainment or the origin of Freddy Fazbear.
But in the meantime,
So
while
they
we
wanna
wait for
make
that
an
inevitably
OG
cryptic
game, like
I hope that this start
a
to the
prequel?
timeline helps to fill in some of those gaps. I'm excited to share part 2 with you next week. If you haven't subscribed and rang the bell, make sure you do it now so you're notified when that part drops. I cannot wait to see your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, I remind you, it's all just a theory. A game theory. Go easy on me. Tried my best.
I mean, I can't go against you because I don't know anything about it. I don't know if that was accurate or not. You know what I mean? But I'm going to assume it was accurate. The dude seems to know what he's talking about. He spent a long time crafting those lore videos. Definitely intriguing, if not a little confusing. I'm not going to sit here and say that I understood everything that came out of that man's mouth, but I tried to follow along. It's definitely dark. It's dangerous. It's twisted, a little psychotic as well, because I feel like that dude, William, is going to end up going off the deep end and backstabbing Henry. The suits as well, the suits are so creepy, but I also didn't realize how creepy the suits are from the original Chuck E. Cheese suit. He showed it in the video. Those things were absolutely terrifying, man. I don't know what kid would want to even be around those suits. But I am excited to see what's going to happen next in this lore video. I have a feeling it's going to get even crazier because he states part 2 is going to be kind of confusing. If you want part 2, do me a favor and hit that like button. If you enjoyed the video, let me know in the comments below, and I would love to hear your thoughts on FNAF as well. As always, thanks for watching, and until next time.